Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Storytime. It's October now, it's getting chilly outside, and you're probably starting to see a familiar face popping up everywhere out there. I'm talking about scarecrows. You know, scarecrows are a common feature. Every autumn we see scarecrows decorating homes and decorating fields. But you know, scarecrows have actually been around for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians would hang their tunics on reeds to keep birds away from their crops along the Nile. And the ancient Greeks would carve wooden statues to scare birds away from their fields as well. The Japanese also had their own version of a scarecrow, but no matter which country or what time in history scarecrows were used, they were always for the same purpose: to keep the birds out of the crops. So today's scarecrows are fun. We like to use old clothes, we like to give them silly faces, but they have a very important job to do. And that's why we're going to read some stories about scarecrows today. Before we get started, let's sing our song. Remember, for our song we need 3 signs. We need more, read, and happy. Are you ready? The more we read together, together, the more we read together, how happy we'll be. Big books and small books and short books and tall books, the more we read together, how happy we'll be. Excellent job. Let's start our story time all about scarecrows.
The Little Scarecrow Boy by Margaret Wise Brown. Pictures by David Diaz. Once upon a time, in a cornfield, there lived a scarecrow and his scarecrow wife and their little scarecrow boy. Every day of the world, Old Man Scarecrow went into the cornfield to make faces at the crows, and every day of the world his little scarecrow boy wanted to come too. And every day of the world, Old Man Scarecrow said, "No, no, little boy, you can't go. You're not fierce enough to scare a crow. Wait till you grow." So every day the little scarecrow boy stayed at home all day and just grew. Every day out in the field, Old Man Scarecrow waved his arms and made terrible faces. He made such terrible faces that the crows nearly lost their feathers at the sight of him, and they flew far away, far away. Every evening when the sun went down, Old Man Scarecrow came rattling home, and all evening he sat in his scarecrow house, teaching his little scarecrow boy how to make fierce faces. Old Lady Scarecrow whistled through her straw teeth at the looks of them there. But early in the morning, when the sun came up, it was the same old "No. No, little boy, you can't go. You're not fierce enough to scare a crow. Wait till you grow." So the little scarecrow boy stayed at home all day and just grew. Then one day, after the little boy had learned all 6 of his father's terrible faces so that he could make them one after the other, he decided to run away. Early the next morning he would go out into the cornfield and he would frighten a crow. So before the sun was up, or Old Man Scarecrow was up, or Old Lady Scarecrow was up, the little scarecrow boy slipped out of bed, dressed quietly on tiptoe, and went quietly out of the house. Over to the cornfield, up on his father's post, in his father's place. It was a fine, shining morning with the sun gleaming green down the corn blades. Crows circled in the air far away over the trees. The little scarecrow boy waved his arms through the air. He had never felt fiercer in all his life. And then came flying a big black crow. Oh, oh, oh! The little scarecrow made his first fierce face, and still came flying the big black crow. Oh, oh, oh! The little scarecrow boy made his second fierce face, and still came flying the big black crow. His third face, oh, 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 time to go. So the little Scarecrow Boy ran, and he ran down the corn rows. The black flapping wings made a noise now, and looking back he could see the blue sky through the ragged feathers of the nearest crow. He ran and he ran, then he stopped, his fourth face. He ran and he ran, then he stopped, his fourth face, and still came flying the big black crow. So he ran and he ran and he ran and he ran, and the crow flew and he flew and he flew and he flew, and the little Scarecrow Boy ran. And then he made his fifth and next to fiercest face of all, and still came flying the big black crow. The little boy had only one face left now and hardly any breath. Even so he stopped, and with his arms stretched wide above his head and his fingers drooping on his hands, he gave the big crow the sixth face. And whoa! The old crow flew backwards through the air, feathers flying everywhere until there wasn't even the shadow of a crow on the land. A scarecrow at last. The little Scarecrow Boy knew that he was as fierce a scarecrow as there was in all the cornfields in all the world. And then he saw a shadow in front of him, and he looked up, and there behind him was Old Man Scarecrow, his father. And his father was proud of his little boy, who had made all 6 faces at the crows. And he picked up his little Scarecrow Boy in his scarecrow arms, and they went home to breakfast. And when the little Scarecrow grew up, he was the fiercest scarecrow in all the fields, in all the world. The end.
The Little Mouse and the Big Leaf by Miss Courtney. Once upon a time, there was a little mouse who lived in a small cave. Little Mouse scurried around in the grass like he did every day when a leaf suddenly landed right on his head. Little Mouse knew what this meant. It is fall. Fall is the time before winter, when all the animals and plants get ready for the cold days ahead. Little Mouse already had a safe house, but he still needed food to eat for the whole winter, so he began searching. And he found a few kernels of corn were under a yellow leaf. There was a little piece of broccoli under the red leaf. There was a fragrant piece of cheese buried under an orange leaf, and a warm sunflower seed hiding under a brown leaf. Little Mouse took everything back to his cave. He thought he might find one more thing and went searching again. He spied a large green leaf, and he thought he might find a treasure trove of food hiding. But when he lifted this leaf, tss, it was a snake. Little Mouse raced back to his house, snuggled in, and waited for a new day. He used a leaf to keep him warm and to hide from any snakes who might be lurking nearby. The end. We're going to take just a little break and talk about your craft for this week. So I wanted to do something that you could easily make at home if you weren't able to come to the library. All you need is some paper. Now, I used colored paper, yellow and green, to make a corn top and then the husk here. But if you don't have colored paper, you can just draw and color. And then the only other thing I did was that I used some glue and I glued some buttons onto the corn to give it lots of colors and make it fun. Did you see that button just roll off? So I'm gonna recommend that you use hot glue if you can, and if you have mom, dad, grandma, or grandpa to help you with it, because when I used the regular white squeeze bottle glue, they don't stick very well once they dry. So either one will work, but if you want your buttons to stay on long term, probably better use hot glue and get some parents or other grown-ups to help. So that's your craft. You don't have to come by for a kit. This is something you could totally make at home. All right, let's do another story.
Scarecrow by Cynthia Rylant. Illustrated by Lauren Stringer. His hat is borrowed, his suit is borrowed, his hands are borrowed, even his head is borrowed, and his eyes probably came out of someone's drawer. But a scarecrow's life is all his own. It takes a certain peace hanging around a garden all day. It takes a love of silence and air, a liking for long, slow thoughts, a friendliness toward birds. Yes, birds. Crows, grackles, starlings, jays. Ask them how they feel about a scarecrow, and they'll say, "Lovely." They ignore the pie-pan hands and the button eyes and see instead the scarecrow's best gift, his gentleness. They line up on his arms and can chat all day. He knows he isn't real. A scarecrow understands right away that he is just borrowed parts made to look like somebody. But he knows this too, that there is a certain wonder going on around him. Seeds are being planted, and inside them there are 10-foot-tall sunflowers and mammoth pumpkins and beans that just go on forever. And though the scarecrow knows that he can as quickly be turned back into straw and buttons as he was turned into a man, he doesn't care. He has been with the owls in the evening and the rabbits at dawn. He has watched a spider work for hours making a web like lace. He has seen the sun tremble and the moon lie still. The scarecrow doesn't care what he is made of or how long he might last, for he has been a witness to life. The earth has rained and snowed and blossomed and wilted and yellowed and greened and vined itself all around him. His hat has housed mice, and his arms have rested birds. A morning glory has held tight to his legs, and a worm is living in his lapel. There is not much else a person might want, and the scarecrow knows this. So he doesn't mind that there is always a smile on his face, or that his eyes are always open. He doesn't mind being up high. He doesn't mind staying there. The wind is brushing his borrowed head, and the sun is warming his borrowed hands, and the clouds are floating across his button-borrowed eyes. The scarecrow is thinking his long, slow thoughts. And soon, birds will be coming by. The end.
Thank you so much for joining me for Storytime today. I hope you loved our scarecrow stories. Maybe it'll encourage you to go out and make your own scarecrow to keep the birds away from flowers, or if you have any vegetables growing. And if you don't, it might just be a fun project because they make a great fall decoration. It's time for us to say goodbye for today, but before we go, let's sing our goodbye song. Remember, for our song we need 3 signs. We need time, goodbye, and friends. Are you ready? It is time to say goodbye to all our friends. It is time to say goodbye to all our friends. It is time to say goodbye. Clap your hands, blink your eyes. It's time to say goodbye to all our friends. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you for Storytime next week.